You shake the dice before you throw them. You feel your pulse quicken. Win or lose, something in your chest pulls tight for 1 full second before the dice stop moving. That feeling is not new. It did not start with casinos or apps or scratch tickets bought at a gas station counter. But the real answer of where it comes from is far stranger than anything happening in Las Vegas tonight. Your ancestors were gambling for thousands of years before money even existed. Not for cash, not for chips. They gambled with bones. Small, oddly shaped bones from the ankles of sheep and goats called astragali. You can still hold one today if you find one. It has 4 uneven sides that can land face up, each side giving different odds, none of them equal. Archaeologists have pulled astragali, worn smooth by centuries of throwing out of graves, temples, and ordinary homes across the ancient world. People did not just play games with them. People trusted them with decisions that actually mattered. Why would anyone hand their future over to the fall of a bone? Because uncertainty terrified them. It still terrifies you. Your brain hates not knowing. So early humans built tools that turned not knowing into something they could act on, instead of something they had to sit inside and fear. A thrown bone did not just settle a game. It settled arguments. It decided who married whom. It chose which soldier marched first into battle at dawn. If the gods controlled the fall of the bone, then the outcome was never random. It was a message sent directly to whoever was brave enough to ask. The archaeologist Alex de Voogt has spent years studying the earliest dice and board games recovered from sites across Africa, the Middle East, and Asia. And his research points to something most people never consider. Dice were not invented for entertainment first. They were built as tools for talking to fate. One of the oldest known dice sets in the world was pulled from a location called the Burnt City in what is now Iran, dated to nearly 5,000 years ago. It was not painted for a child's toy chest. It was found beside a board built for a real structured game, with pieces carved from bone and stone. Someone sat down that day, long before Rome existed, long before the pyramids at Giza were finished, and rolled a set of dice, hoping for a good outcome. Feel that for a second. The same small hope you feel scratching a lottery ticket at a gas station. The same tightening in your chest. Across 5,000 years and thousands of miles, almost nothing about that feeling has changed. So what was actually happening inside their heads? And more importantly, what is happening inside yours right now, every time you take a risk? Your brain runs on a chemical called dopamine. You have probably heard the word before, usually attached to the wrong idea. Dopamine is not simply the brain's pleasure chemical, the reward you get for winning. The neuroscientist Wolfram Schultz discovered something far more precise and far stranger while studying reward circuits in the brain. Dopamine spikes hardest not when you win. It spikes hardest in the moment right before you know whether you have won or lost. Read that again. The uncertainty itself is the reward. That is why the roll of the dice feels better than the number it lands on. That is why the second before a card flips over feels sharper than actually seeing the card's face. Your ancestors, throwing astragali onto packed dirt floors thousands of years ago, were not really chasing the win itself. They were chasing that flash of not knowing. And so are you. Every single time you check a notification, refresh a feed, or place a bet on your phone at midnight. Here is where it gets stranger. You would expect losing to simply feel bad, plainly and only bad. It does not. The psychologist Luke Clark has studied a phenomenon called the near-miss effect. In his research, a losing outcome that comes close to a win, 2 matching symbols on a slot machine, and a third that just barely misses, lights up reward regions of the brain almost as strongly as an actual win does. Your brain cannot fully tell the difference between I almost had it and I got it. Instead of reading a near miss as a loss, it reads it as motivation to try one more time. Ancient gamblers experienced this too, whether or not anyone around them had a word for it. A near match on the bones, a close call in the throw. It felt like a sign, an invitation to try again immediately. That sensation was not a modern casino trick engineered to keep you seated at a machine. It was already sitting inside the human brain long before anyone built a slot machine designed to exploit it. So why does uncertainty feel good instead of simply unbearable? Because for most of human history, uncertainty was not a game you could opt out of. It was the entire environment you lived inside. You did not know whether the hunt would succeed. You did not know whether the storm on the horizon would pass or destroy the camp. You did not know whether the berries ahead were food or poison. A brain wired to feel a small reward for tolerating that kind of uncertainty, instead of freezing in fear of it, was a brain that kept moving forward anyway. That brain went on the hunt. That brain crossed the unfamiliar river. That brain explored the next valley instead of starving safely in the one it already knew. And that brain survived long enough to have children. In other words, you are not gambling because something inside you is broken. You are gambling because something inside you worked exactly as it was built to work, for a world that no longer fully exists. This is the part that reframes everything. The researchers Daniel Kahneman and Amos Tversky spent decades studying how humans actually make decisions under risk, rather than how a perfectly rational calculator would make them. What they found again and again was that people do not weigh a possible loss and a possible gain equally. Losing something hurts roughly twice as much as an equivalent gain feels good. And yet, when the odds feel uncertain enough, humans will still take the risk anyway, chasing that flicker of possibility, even when the math clearly argues against them. Your ancestors, reading the fall of a bone in candlelight, were living out that exact same math thousands of years before it had a name. A hunter who refused every risk starved, slowly but safely. A hunter who embraced total reckless risk died fast, and often young. The ones who survived, the ones whose genes made it all the way down through hundreds of generations to you, were the ones who could sit right in the uncomfortable middle. Cautious enough to stay alive, curious enough to try anyway. That middle ground did not disappear when farming began, or when cities rose out of the dirt, or when currency was invented to replace bartered goods. It just changed its costume, again and again. Ones became carved dice. Dice became painted cards. Cards became spinning roulette wheels. Then scratch tickets sold at every corner store. Then an app on your phone that lets you wager on almost anything, at almost any hour of the night, without ever leaving your bed. The tool kept changing. The wiring underneath it never did. Think about that the next time you feel your stomach drop watching a small wheel spin on a screen. Think about it the next time you refresh a page, waiting to see whether a stranger liked something you posted, whether a stock ticked up, whether a message finally arrived. That feeling is not a modern glitch in your personality, some flaw unique to this century. That is a 5,000-year-old bone, still landing somewhere deep inside your brain, exactly as it was designed to. You are not weak for feeling the pull of maybe. You are ancient. Every generation before you built a new tool to hold that exact same feeling. A bone from a sheep's ankle, a hand-painted card, a mechanical wheel, a glowing screen. You shake the dice before you throw them. Somewhere right now, someone is holding a phone the exact same way someone once held a knucklebone by firelight, waiting for the fall, hoping the uncertainty breaks in their favor, feeling their chest tighten in a way that has not changed in 50 centuries. Only now, you probably do not even notice that you are still doing it.